Hello, we're ready for our word problem of the day. So go ahead and get your problem set up like we normally do, and then we'll get started. So today we have Mrs. Parsons had 34 flowers to plant. She got 15 more flowers. How many flowers did she have all together? So what we're going to do is we're going to write our cubs on the side. And the reason we do this is so that we can point out the important information in our word problem. Sometimes there's a lot of words that you just don't need when you're trying to solve the word problem. So it's a way for us to pull out those important details. So we're going to circle our numbers. So I have the number 34 and I have the number 15. And then I can go ahead and cross out my C. Now, I'm looking for a word in the question that's going to help us to figure out whether we're adding or subtracting. So the question says, how many flowers did she have all together? That's right, all together is that word. So we're going to underline all together. Then we're going to box our question. So now we know we have to answer how many she had all together. And now we're going to go ahead and solve our problem. So we're starting off with 34. Now, remember I told you we use our tens frames if we have teen numbers or less. That's fine. But when we have 34, am I going to have enough room to make 3 tens frames? No. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some 10 sticks, some quick tens, and some ones. So I have 34. So go ahead and draw these with me. So let's think about it. A 10 stick is just like this. We have 10, 20, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. There's my 34. Would you agree? And did you notice that when I counted, I started counting by tens and then I had to switch it and I had to start counting by ones. Now I have to add 15 more. Now I want you to watch how I do this because I'm not just going to write 15 over here. Because if I do that, then I'm jumping around going, okay, well I have some tens here and tens here and then I have ones here and ones here. I want to keep my tens together. I want to keep my ones together. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw 15, which is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay? So now what do I have all together? Well, I have 10, 20, 30, 40. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. I have 49 flowers. And let me tell you, I really feel like I did have 49 flowers to plant. I had a lot of planting I had to do. So now, you'll notice that's a pretty big number, right? Pretty big number. So let's see if we can now put it in our number bond. So I know I had 34. These were the ones that I had. I'm going to say 8 for head. Then I got 15 more, right? Well, here's my question for you. Am I going to punch 34 and count up 15? Nope, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do in this case is this. We're going to match our tens, and then we're going to match our ones, okay? So look at, I have a 3 and a 1. I know there's an imaginary plus sign in between here, so I'm adding these numbers. So if I have 3 tens plus 1 more 10, that gives me 4 tens. Now I need to add my ones. I have 4 ones and 5 ones. Now this we can punch out. I can punch 4 and count up 5, or I can punch 5, the bigger number, and count up 4. So we're going to go 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. Let me ask you this question. Does it match? Yes, it does. So 49 goes here. And the one thing I don't want to forget to do is label this F for flowers. Okay? Now, this is the part that I really want to review with you because this is what we learned yesterday. So if I have 34 and I add 15 to it, we need to solve this problem. What you're going to do is break down the smaller number. So here's my smaller number. And what we're going to do is we're breaking it down to tens and ones. And I'm going to make sure my tens are closest to the double-digit number. Okay? So I need to do 2 number sentences. 34 plus 10. Now remember, the only thing that's changing in this one, we're adding a 10. So the only thing that's changing are the tens. So I can go ahead and bring my 4 over here. So now I need to add one more 10 to the 3 tens. 3 plus 1 is 4. But you should know that we can't stop there because does this 44 match the 49? No, we have to add the number that we didn't use. So we're going to bring the 44 down and add it to the number I didn't use, which is 5. So if I punch 44 and count up 5, I should come up to 49. 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. It does. So I can say 49 is the correct answer. And again, I'm going to put a box around it so that I make sure to put it inside the box. And lastly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer the question. The question said, how many flowers did she have altogether? We're going to say she had 49 flowers. And then I'm going to put a 49 here. And again, I'm going to cross off my S because that means that I solved the problem. So you'll notice there were a few different ways that I threw in here that you can solve this problem. Draw a picture. You can add your 10s and add your 1s. You can break it down with the number bond way. So there's 3 different ways. Okay, so now I need you to hang on. We're going to be going through more of this in our next sections. Okay, we're ready to get started with this part. What we're going to do is we're going to play Guess My Number. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our way around the hundreds chart to figure out what number I have hidden underneath this pink piece of paper. But before we do, what I want to do is go over with you how you move around the hundreds chart. I know you're getting really good with adding 10s, so I could put my pointer anywhere I want. If I jump down a box, that's as if I was adding 10 to each of the numbers. And the more I go down, the more 10s I'm adding. So if I went from 15 down to 35, I had jumped down 10, 20. This is where that counting by 10s comes into place. You have to know how to count by 10s. At the same time, if I have my number at 65 and I want to subtract 10, that means I just jump up one box and land on 55. Or if I say I need to take 20 away, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 65 and I'm going to go 10, 20. So again, you're counting by 10s, but this time you're going up. Now, if you want to add 1s, you just go forward. What happens when you get to say 50? That's right, you have to go down to 51. So then what do you do if you have to subtract? Well, if I have my pointer here at 33 and I go backwards, I'm counting backwards by 1s, what happens when I get to 31? I don't just go up here to 21 because that's subtracting 10. That's right, I've got to go back here and keep going. So let's move around and see if we can't come up with a couple of numbers before we get to our secret number. So let's put our finger on 25, okay? Now, what happens if I say to you, I want you to add 30? Well, we're jumping down, so let's go 10, 20, 30. So we're at 55. Now what I want you to do is I want you to subtract 2. I want to go backwards 2. 1, 2. Now what if I say to you, I want you to subtract 30. Subtract 30. That means we're going up. Ready? 10, 20, 30. Now what if I say to you, okay, I want you to subtract 2. So I'm going to go 1, 2. I go backwards, right? Now if I say to you, I want you to subtract 10. Well, I'm going to subtract 10. I'm going to go up 1. Now I want you to add 2. So if I add 2, I'm going to go 1, 2, and 13 was the number I was trying to get to. So do you see what happens? You have to stop and think. If I'm adding, I'm either going down if I'm adding 10s or forward. But if I'm subtracting, I'm going up and then backwards. So let's see if we can get to our secret number. You ready? So we're going to start at 100. I know it sounds pretty big, doesn't it? And what I want you to do is I want you to subtract 50. Are you up for it? Here we go. We're going to remember we jump up a box if we're subtracting 10s. So we need to count by 10s till we get to 50. Ready? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, we're good so far, right? Now what I want you to do is I want you to add 1. So where do I go from here if I add 1? That's right, I'm going to go right here because I'm just adding one digit. Now what I want you to do is I want you to subtract 20. Can you do that? Remember, we're going down, or we're going up, right? 10, 20. Now, I want you to add, let's add 6 to it. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You notice what I did? I did some adding of ones. Now I want you to add 10. That's right, you go down one box, 10. And now what I want you to do is I want you to subtract 4. So that means minus 4. So which direction are we going, forward or backwards? That's right, we're going backwards. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we landed on the number 43. Let's see what our number was. 43. Great job. So again, I want you to remember, you have to go forward if you're adding ones, backwards if you're subtracting ones. If you're adding tens, you're jumping down a box. If you're subtracting tens, you go up a box. So today's lesson is just building on what we learned yesterday. It's really just going over it again because I know it's a little difficult. What you need to really make sure that you do is, number 1, break down your tens and ones properly. And number 2, make sure that you're creating 2 number sentences, okay? The first one is what you combine, and then the second one you have to add the number that's left over. We're going to go over 2 problems here on the board. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go over 2 problems in your homework because it's really important that I want you to hear my voice as you're going through the problems. I want you to go step by step, and I'll walk you through each of those steps, okay? So let's take a look at the first one. The first one is 15 plus 13. Now, what we're doing is we're breaking down the smaller number. Did you hear that? The smaller number. So the first thing in your mind, what you need to do is you need to say which one is smaller, 15 or 13. And you're right if you said 13. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this down into tens and ones. You all know that 13 is 10, 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that 10 closest to the other 2-digit number. So we're going to put 10, 3 right here. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to circle our 2 numbers. Now, this is going to create our first number sentence. We're going to say 15 plus 10. And that's going to give us our first number. Now, if we take a look at it, we're saying, okay, we want 10 more than 15. Now, if I take a look at my hundreds chart, here's the number 15 right here. Remember, we just did moving around the hundreds chart. So we know that if we're adding 10 to it, all I need to do is drop down one box, and I have the number 25. And another way we can show that is this. I can look and I can say I have one 10 here plus one more 10, that's 2 10s. And my 5 doesn't change because we're adding it to 0, so that's 25. But we're not done there. We're going to now take that 25 and we're going to add it to the number that I didn't use, which is 3. Now, I'm going to go 25, 26, 27, 28. But I also want to show you a different way without having to punch it out. So, if I know that I'm adding ones, you can tell it's a 1-digit number, so you're adding ones, okay? So if I add 5 ones plus 3 ones, I get 8. And guess what? The 2 stays the same because I didn't add any 10s. So I have 2 10s, and now I have 8 ones, and my answer is 28. So what I just did was gave you a second way, so you can punch it out, count up, or you could just match up what you have. Remember, you're matching your 10s with your 10s, your 1s with your 1s. A way to remember it is if it's a 1-digit number, they're 1s. If it's a 2-digit number, you're going to see 10s and then the 1s. Now let's go over to this one here. Now, I want you to notice, again, we're going to be looking for the smaller number, but where's the smaller number this time? That's right, it's first. So we are going to break down this 12, but how am I going to write it? You know 12 is 10, 2, But where's my 10 going to go? If you said closer to the 25, you're right. So we're going to put the 2 here. We're going to put the 10 here. And what we're going to do is we are going to just circle that just like we did before. So that's going to be our first number sentence. We take that and say 25 plus 10. Okay? And we're going to come up with an answer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm at 25, and I have to jump down 1 box to add 10, which is 35. Now, again, I just showed you what we could also do is say, well, I know my ones didn't change, so I'm going to write the 5 down. And now I'm going to add 2 10s plus 1 more 10 to give me 3 10s. So now I'm going to take that 35, bring it down, because that's going to be the first number of our next number sentence. And I'm going to add 2 to that. That's the number I didn't use. 35, 36, 37 should be my answer. But check it out. I know my 3 is not going to change, so I have to just take my 5 ones plus 2 more ones to get 7 ones. So my answer is 37. Sound good? Now, let's take a look at your homework for tonight. What you're going to be working on is page number 91 and 92, okay? Now, what they're going to do is they're asking you to just write yourself the 2 number sentences. You have to solve the problem by using number sentences. I'm going to use this to hold my actually, no, let me get a little magnet here to hold up our papers, okay? So, we have 11 plus 14. That's your first problem on page 91. So, again, we're going to break down the smaller number. Which one's smaller, 11 or 14? So we have 11's our smaller number. Now, again, just like this one here, our first number is the smallest number. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make sure our 10s go closer to the other 2-digit number. So I know 11 is 10 1, so I'm going to put the 1 here and the 10 here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to circle our 2 numbers, and that's going to become our first number sentence. And remember, one little tip, you're going to have to write fairly small. If you write too big, you're not going to fit everything in the small box. So we have to write 14 plus 10 to give us our first number. Now, I hope you can now visualize if I had my eyes closed and I put my finger on the 14 on my hundreds chart, and I know I have to jump down a box. I want you to think about what that looks like. So if I close my eyes, I have 4, 14, 24, 24, because I know that 10 more than 14 is 24. But I also know that 1 plus 1 is 2, and my 4 stays the same because the only thing that changed were my 10s. Now I need to bring that 24 down, and I have to add it to the number I didn't use, which is 1. Well, that's pretty easy, right? What's 1 more than 24? 25. And 25 is your answer for this one. So do you see how nice and neat and organized this is? I didn't scribble all over the place. I didn't draw arrows or anything. I just clearly circled my first number sentence, wrote it straight across, made sure I brought that number down here, circled the number I didn't use to bring it down, and then came up with my answer. Let's try it again. This time we're going to be on page 92. So on page 92, the first problem is 29 plus 11. So again, we're breaking down that smaller number. And I know you can clearly see that 11 is the smaller number. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it down. This one, we're going to do straight, 10 1, because our 2-digit number is over here. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle those 2 numbers because that gives us our first number sentence. So I know 29 plus 10 equals what? If you said 39, you're absolutely right. Because if I take my hundreds chart out again, if I'm at 29 and I make 1 jump down, it's 39, right? Look at the pattern. So again, it's all about patterns and looking at those numbers. Now I need to take that 39 and add it to the number I didn't use. In this case is a 1. What's 1 more than 39? It's 40. You're right. So 40 is my answer. But I do want to show you a little something. So I know I have 3 tens here, right? But I know 9 ones plus one more 1 makes a 10. It's a friend of 10. So if I have my 1s equaling a 10, and then I have 3 tens, 3 tens plus one more 10 is 4 tens. Do you see how your brains are going to start to work? I really want you to be looking at these numbers. If you have any problems with this, please, please, please let us know. I know it's confusing. Tomorrow might just add a little bit to that confusion because I have to give you a different way to do these problems. But please make sure your parents take pictures of it, send it into your teachers, and contact us if you can't figure it out. I'll see you tomorrow.